so much for clicking on my video and watching it. This video is going to be about Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and specifically I'm going to focus on Disney's Hollywood Studios there at Florida theme park. Are you a plus-size guest looking to go to Florida and Orlando to Walt Disney World? Then I'm going to tell you all about the theme park, the Hollywood Studios portion of Walt Disney World, but I will get to all of the theme parks at Disney World shortly. So I'm going to talk about that and just basically how plus-size friendly the rides are. If there's any weight limit or restrictions, and how you're going to fit in that ride. In this video, I'm going to cover all of the rides at Hollywood Studios, but please note that at the time of this video, the new Star Wars land at Walt Disney World, which is going in Hollywood Studios area, is not open. So a little background on me is that I am 5'6", and the last time I visited Disney World, I was around 300 pounds. I carry most of my weight in my stomach, with some being in my hips and thighs. I don't really have a lot of weight in my butt or my chest area. Disney World, and this includes Hollywood Studios. The parks there are very plus-size friendly. They are very accommodating and very good if you are a plus-size guest. They do a good job of being size inclusive, trying to let everybody ride, which is one thing I really, really like about them. So usually with these types of videos, what I do is I try to start out by doing coasters, and then thrill rides, family rides, and then finally kids rides and anything if there's a water park. On this video though, for Hollywood Studios, I think what I'm going to do is maybe do by sections of the park is what I'm thinking of doing. That is what for Disney makes sense to me. Like we could do the Toy Story Land of the park and talk about all the rides there, so on and so forth. That's just personally what makes sense to me. But let's get started and start talking about the rides in Hollywood Studios and how plus-size friendly they are. Let's go ahead and let's start out in Toy Story Land, and we'll start with Slinky Dog Dash. And Slinky Dog Dash here is a fantastic roller coaster. It's not too scary for kids, but it's still a lot of fun for adults, and it's really cute. And best of all, it is plus size friendly. Here I picked this photo so we can see the seats. As you can tell from the platform here to the door opening, it's pretty even with each other. There's not a huge step up or huge step down, which is really nice. And yes, the door opening's a little narrow. However, as long as you're, an adult, your height, you should slide right over that, no issues. The seat cars I found to be pretty wide. You could put two bigger adults next to each other and be pretty comfortable. Each seat has an individual lap bar that you pull down just to your level of comfort for you. And then the seat beside you pulls theirs down as well. And I like that a lot because if you are riding next to somebody smaller and it's a shared lap bar, sometimes I feel like they slide around a lot. And this way, that's not a concern. It's easy to get in and again, it is super easy to get in and out of. Your size won't be an issue. Just pull down to your level of comfort with the lap bar there. As far as accessibility goes, you must transfer from your wheelchair to the ride vehicle to ride. And I'm moving on to Alien Swirling Saucers, but I just wanted to correct something I said about Slinky Dog Dash. you must transfer to a wheelchair and then to the ride vehicle. So not an ECV, but a wheelchair. On here on Alien Swirling Saucers, however, you must transfer from a wheelchair or ECV to ride the ride. So again, on Slinky Dog Dash, you have to transfer into a standard wheelchair and then transfer to the ride vehicle. On the Alien Swirling Saucers, you may transfer from a wheelchair or ECV to the ride, but you have to transfer to the ride vehicle on either of these. This Alien Swirling Saucer ride, there's a small step up to get into the ride vehicle, but the ride vehicle itself, there's no lap bar or anything to pull down. All it is a seat belt and a large bench seat. Like 2 plus-size adults could fit together on this ride comfortably. And there is a seat belt. However, the seat belt is extremely long. But if you do feel the need, you can always ask for a seat belt extender on this ride, and they will provide that for you. The last ride in Toy Story Land is, of course, Toy Story Mania. And Toy Story Mania is a fun ride where you have these little targets that you try to aim at with your little guns or blasters there. And it is very plus-size friendly. Basically, you could fit 2 plus-size people next to each other. There's no seatbelt. There is individual lap bars for each person. So just basically just pull it down to your level of comfort and you will be fine. And if you do have accessibility or mobility concerns, you have to transfer into a standard wheelchair. However, there are specialized cars that actually where you can just wheel your wheelchair right into the ride vehicle, which is it's really useful to have that if you do have accessibility or mobility concerns. But concluding Toy Story Land, all of these rides in Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios, they're very plus size friendly. I don't think anybody would have many issues with these rides. I didn't at my size. This is Rock and Roller Coaster, and we are starting into the Sunset Boulevard area of Hollywood Studios. This is actually a picture of the test seat you can actually try out. Ask a cast member for assistance locating the test seat because it's kind of hidden, and they'll take you to it. There is a pretty big step down in there. So my advice for you is make sure you hold on to the handrail and then step on the seat and then step down to get into the ride vehicle. You must transfer from an ECV to a standard wheelchair and then from that to the ride vehicle to ride. The seats maybe a little bit narrow, but not terrible. You could still ride next to another person, even another plus size guest, maybe a little squishy, but it's definitely doable. The restraints just pull down to your level of comfort. The only thing I'd say is maybe if you're really broad or have a really large tummy or a really large chest area, maybe then you wouldn't be able to ride. But in my current stats, I have no issues. And, you know, people somewhat bigger than me are able to ride as well. So I don't foresee many issues on Rock and Roller Coaster. Continuing on our Hollywood Studios here and in Sunset Boulevard, we have the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror ride. This ride is like a long bench seat with individual seats, and as you can tell, there's like a little bar in between each seat, which if you're like me, you have like wider hips, you may hit against that bar and it may be a little uncomfortable. It's manageable. But for the most room, try to actually get an aisle seat, and especially not at the very end of the row because then you're squished against a wall, and it's not a very enjoyable ride then. And then there's a seat belt, which my tip always with seat belts is you want to basically pull it out before you even try to sit down. The seat belt is huge, like it's very long, and then I actually will turn around and buckle it and then sit down. and just feed the slack back in to make sure I'm secure and comfortable. This ride is definitely doable. As a plus size guest, seatbelt no issue. The little bars can sometimes get in the way with your hips, but still you should be able to do this ride with very minimal issues, especially if you ask for an aisle seat to have more room. If you have mobility concerns, you must transfer from like an ECV to a standard wheelchair and then transfer onto the ride from there. This here is Star Tours and showing you how the seats are here at the ride for Star Tours at Disney Hollywood Studios. It's very like theater seats, reminds to me of theater seats. My best advice is to go ahead and pull that seatbelt all the way out. It's really long. And then buckle and sit down and just adjust the seatbelt and feed the excess slack in. That's how I do it, and it hasn't failed me yet, thankfully. Because it can be kind of hard to reach behind you once you're sitting down. And another tip is to try to get an outer seat where you're only next to one person, therefore you can kind of feel like you have more room than being between two people. But this ride is pretty accommodating for pretty much anybody. As you'll find at Disney, most of the rides are accommodating for pretty much anybody. This ride is located in the Echo Lake section of Hollywood Studios in Florida. And as far as accessibility goes, this ride requires you to transfer to a standard wheelchair and then to the ride vehicle itself. That pretty much concludes all the rides that are there currently in Hollywood Studios and part of the Walt Disney World Resort located in Orlando, Florida. Of course, with the opening of the new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, there's going to be more rides to talk about, but for now, this is what they have. And I hope that you found this video useful as a plus-size rider looking to go to Disney World or someone with accessibility concerns. I hope that this maybe helped you ease some fears. Definitely don't be afraid to go to Disney World. Disney is very accommodating for plus-size riders. As far as tall people go, sorry, I really can't tell you too much about tall people because I'm not that tall. I'm 5'6", and then my fiance, he's 5'8", so we're really not that tall. We don't have any issues. So unfortunately, I can't really talk too much about how a tall rider would fit in a ride. And there are some other attractions at Hollywood Studios. This is not all they have at Hollywood Studios, of course. But the rest of them are pretty much like shops or experiences or dining or shows, which, if anything, shows may have like theater style seating, but which everybody should know, everybody should be fine with, you know, and the experiences and stuff, and all of the rest of the things. If you do have a wheelchair or ECV, you can stay in that and enjoy that, the rides and shows in that. So again, I do thank you for watching. Subscribe to me if you haven't already, and I will be working on the rest of the parks at Disney World for plus size riders as well. And eventually I'll be doing like Universal too. So stay tuned for those videos. And make sure to thumbs up this video. And if you have any more questions or need any more detail about a ride, comment below and I'll try to answer it as soon as I can.